Hello, welcome to lecture number 9, Termination of the Consulting Relationship. First and foremost, most consulting relationships, or at least it's hoped that most consulting relationships, will end positively. The project has been completed, consultant did deliver as anticipated and expected, client has received the results or the input from the consultant that was expected, and they agreed to part company because the conclusion of the project has occurred successfully. That is the hope for all of our projects. However, there are times where it may make sense in the course of a project or consulting initiative to terminate the relationship for various reasons. The most primary reason is if someone has broken the law, if a consultant has broken the law, it is a time to say in the client's mind, this relationship cannot move forward. We cannot be associated, affiliated, work with someone who has violated the legal requirements of either the contract or the project, or even beyond that. Another related reason to that is not necessarily a legal violation, but perhaps a breach of ethics. If the consultant had been told that there are certain parameters under which they must work, keeping proprietary information confidential, not speaking to certain people about details of the project, those level of ethical violations, not sharing competitive data with others. If that does surface, then the client, by all rights, should terminate the relationship because the fidelity or the trust between the two parties has been violated. Other things to consider. If the consultant has not performed as expected, and I want to be careful here, I'm not talking about the results of the consulting project were not as expected, but rather the consultant didn't behave or perform as expected. They didn't submit reports on time. They changed parameters of the original agreement in a way that are not acceptable. Perhaps the way they handle certain administrative functions were not consistent with the way the client company prefers. So if there are certain behavioral things related to the project execution or implementation, those are also potential reasons for termination. Now, some of that could just be an honest misunderstanding that can be cleared up through discussion. But if over time you find that's not the case, it can be a reason for termination. So now let's assume we've gotten to the point where we've decided to terminate the consultant. How do you go about doing that and do it in as clean a way as possible? Well, obviously the first thing to do is to alert the consultant. Many contracts include clauses that say how the agreement can be terminated, whether it can be done in writing, whether there has to be a certain number of days, weeks, months before an agreement is officially terminated from the time that it's been announced or decided. That can all be contractually stipulated. However that is, though, the consultant needs to be told, we are going in a different direction, we're no longer going to employer services, and we are ending our relationship at this point. Once that has occurred, collect any information that has been shared back and forth so that neither party, client nor consultant, is in possession of things that are considered confidential or proprietary to the other organization. Whether it be returned outright or demonstrated that it has been properly destroyed, that's a local decision, but at no time should either party retain things that were really not their intellectual property. Then you would, of course, be sure to close any administrative open-ended issues, be that invoices, expense reports, other things that were in process that are to be concluded so that the relationship can be separated at that point without any further involvement between the two parties. In terms of how you communicate to internal employees, it's wisest to do it on a need-to-know basis and only tell those people enough information so that it answers their questions without feeding the rumor mill and gossip. So those that have worked closest with the consultant can be told there's been a change. We're going to be authorizing either another consulting firm to continue the work, or we're going to be taking it internally in-house. and here's what the requirement is for you moving forward in terms of how you're going to either cooperate, participate, get involved in this, if at all. Those that don't have any exposure or reason to be involved can simply be told that we will no longer have consultant XYZ on premise. The project has concluded with that particular consultant and we are going in a different direction. I would not feed into any kind of talk of scandal or rumors as much as that can be avoided. If the decision is to use another consultant, be very careful that you do not share information that the first consultant had provided or worked on that would be considered the first consulting company's intellectual property or proprietary methodologies, etc. Each consulting firm should be given the same general information that had been provided when they were all bidding on the project initially. Any learnings that are truly the company's can certainly be shared. But be careful not to cross that line because it can lead to legal action and it's not something that anybody would really desire to participate in.